Our culture has become way over feminized, and certain institutions will just break if we keep heading down this path. Part of the problem that we've created in work culture is that men can and are sued for making the workplace like a frat house, but women can't be and aren't sued for making the workplace like a Montessori kindergarten. And I thought that that was a very keen insight. And she, in the article, takes it even farther and says there are certain institutions that once you understand on average what a women-led institution is going to be like versus a male-led institution, you very quickly understand some institutions become nonsensical if they become feminized. A lot of institutions are becoming feminized, and that is creating problems. The whole woke movement, when understood through the lens of race, is going to break down and you will not understand it. The whole woke movement, when viewed through the lens of class, won't make any sense. You're going to be very confused. But the whole woke movement, when seen through the lens of feminization, will suddenly make all the sense in the world. Once you understand that evolution is like, I need women to do a very different thing than I need men to do. Then you begin to understand, oh, cool, we're wired in very different ways. Now, there's more overlap than there is difference. But when you start getting into the outliers, all of the differences really start to become super clear.
This is her quoting a study from a book called The Warriors and Warriors, The Survival of the Sexes by psychology professor Joyce Benenson. She theorizes that men develop group dynamics optimized for war, while women develop group dynamics optimized for protecting their offspring. A group of men given a task will, quote, jockey for talking time, disagree loudly, and then, quote, cheerfully relay a solution to the experimenter. A group of women given the same task will, quote, politely inquire about one another's personal backgrounds and relationships, accompanied by much eye contact, smiling, and turn-taking, and pay, quote, little attention to the task that the experimenter presented.
Given that men are hardwired for war, they have to basically just make commands to each other, say, go do this. Hierarchy forms very quickly. They don't worry about feelings at all. It's completely goal-oriented. Go do that thing. There's a set of rules, and it's like, just do the fucking thing, follow the rules, get it done. Whereas women, it's all relational. Trying to create group cohesion, because if it really does take a village to raise a child, you're going to need a lot of people working together. Women are weaker from a physical perspective, and so you don't interface with the dangers of the world directly. You're going to have to work through somebody, obviously a man, who's then going to go interface. So you get very good at relational things. This explains like 98% of the times that my wife and I are looking at each other like the other person is crazy for how we deal with stuff. Because I'll get into a huge, maybe even relationship ending collision with somebody, and I just don't think about it anymore. And if I bumped into that person, I wouldn't re-bring any of my resentments. I'd just be like, oh, we're now in a new box, moving forward with a new thing. I'm addressing only the new thing. And my wife is like, I just cannot move on from it. She's like, I've got to have some sort of like, I need them to apologize or whatever. And I'm like, I literally don't care.
This feminization masculine thing is I think this is an objective viewpoint on a problem. And I think this goes back into the populism of it all, where right now there are different factions. It seems like there are people in America right now that are like, my problems would be good if all the immigrants were gone. There's people in America say that my problems would be good if all the blacks were gone. And now there's people in America that are going to say my problems would be good if all the women weren't in the workplace.
So one of the postulates put forward in the article is very clear. If women take over the field of law, the field of law won't survive that.
But I think that that's subjective, though. And that's, I think, the point of the debate of all this is.
People need to stop lying about patterns that exist. And we need to say, oh, here's a really interesting thing about women judges when looked at a population study level. Their sentencing is way more lenient. Now, what do we want to do with that information? Do we want to say, ooh, we don't want female judges? Do we want to say, hey, voting public, be aware that female judges are more likely to be lenient? But hiding from the truth is where I draw a hard and fast line. I do not think society should ever lie about what is true. This is exactly why I fight so hard for free speech. So things that are true should never be taboo. We can argue about what to do with the information, but we should never be blocked from saying, this is really a pattern we see. And we have been blocked by seeing that information for the last 20 years at least.
From Darwin, there is a greater variance within the genders than the variance between the genders. In other words, women can be more different than other women then women are different from men as a whole.
So you have basically two bell curves. So they'll go like that. And then you see, oh, wow, like there's a ton where we're overlapping. And this is why it never maps super cleanly in terms of your interactions with people in everyday life. My wife has masculine tendencies. I have feminine tendencies, which is one of the things we've always said why we get along so well is we just meet more in the middle. So it's very, very useful in that sense. However, if you assume that I'm like the average male, you're going to be very confused. And when you start getting into the extremes, this is why jails are basically filled exclusively with men. It's like 93% of all people incarcerated are men. So what does it look like when the law profession is now swung to feminine average? Well, you're going to start to see things that are part of the feminine average, which is that it's going to be more relational, it's going to be more forgiving, less clear rules, less clear boundaries. And what we have to ask is that what we want in law? They go out of their way to make very clear that she is not, nor am I, ever saying men are better than women or women are better than men. We need to be honest about, once you start talking population averages, what are people actually like? I have no problem whatsoever if a company wants to be entirely female. No beef whatsoever. But I also don't have a beef if a company wants to be entirely male. But right now, you will get sued into oblivion if you make your company exclusively male. You won't if you make your company exclusively female, which is fucking ridiculous, but nonetheless true. If an all-male company is better, then let them be an all-male company and compete. People can tell you when the right goes too far or the masculine. When does the left go too far or the feminine? Like, where do we go? Yo, that's the female equivalent of hanging up the pinup girl, where guys are just like, yo, this makes me so uncomfortable. I don't want to be around this.
Making people talk about their feelings? I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's I should be able to go sue somebody because they made me discuss my feelings, or they were talking about their feelings in a meeting, and I don't think there's any place in the workplace for that. But people would laugh you out of court.